They've put themselves in a position where there is no winning. No matter which of the options they choose to deal with this, there's going to be pain down the road. How you doing, guys? This is Eric from WorldWasteland.com. We are finally starting to see the decay of the financial system actually manifest at a level where like retail customers and normies are noticing it. It's being covered by the mainstream news, obviously. Two of the three largest bank fails in American history have happened within the past couple weeks. So that's pretty significant. Now, these weren't the two, of the three largest banks that exist. Just of the, of all the banks that have failed, two of the largest ones that have ever failed, that's the ones that have failed within the past couple weeks, with SVB and I think it was Signature Bank or whatever the other one was. And, if you just come at this from like a bird's eye view of the situation and you see there like emergency Fed meetings, the president having to come out and like a morning, otherwise unscheduled morning address to say that everything's fine, that should get you a little bit on the uneasy side. And I know it does me, but this isn't a surprise. I've known that this is what was going to happen for a long time. What I don't know is whether this is going to be the beginning of a really quick cascade of failures, or if it's just more of the same slow decline over the next, few years. But it's definitely a point where the rot internal to the system is manifesting itself on the surface, which means we're closer than we ever have been before. And the worst part about it in terms of stability going forward is that the Fed is in a position, like I've been saying for years, I think Lynette Zhang said this in a recent video, that, they've put themselves in a position where there is no winning. No matter which of the options they choose to deal with this, there's going to be pain down the road. If they continue to raise rates, we'll get more, tightened, generally more hawkish policy in general. We'll get more bank failures. We'll get more institutions that can't deal with that. Even the government is going to have to pay massive, massive amounts of money in interest payments as these interest rates go up. So there's, not deflation, but depressionary forces down that path. The only other option would be to maintain or even soften their policy to become more dovish, lower interest rates, whatever, the pivot as they've been calling it. And if you get that, then we have the inflationary melt-up where they just have to put way, way, way more money into the system. Either way is going to be disastrous for the actual U.S. economy. Not the certain financial instruments are going to benefit either way, depending on which course is chosen. But the actual economy, what is really matters when it comes to the health of the country, that's going to be hurt. It already is damaged, and that's going to be continue to get worse either way. I've made it clear for a long time that I think the Fed will, of course, go to a more easy money policy because of the specific types of problems that happen either way. That they are more likely to choose, just like every other government in history has opted for, to choose the one that allows them to keep more power and pushes the problems off in certain directions. If they continue on a more hawkish, tight monetary policy, that gives them less power. That gives them less money to do anything with, less options in general in terms of how to try to kind of ride this down for a soft landing, as they say. And one of the, I think it was Economic Ninja pointed out a really, really kind of shocking comment by, I think it was Jerome Powell, but it was one of these Treasury or Fed guys. I think it was Jerome Powell. He was being it was either in a hearing or an interview, and he said like that the path we're on in terms of monetary policy or whatever they're doing with the economy is unsustainable, but where we're at right now is not a problem. Oh, it's Peter Schiff. He was talking about it. Because he made the great analogy that's akin to like jumping out of an airplane and being like, well, yeah, if we continue on this path, we're going to die, but there's nothing wrong with where we are right now. It's like, unless you show me really quickly how we're going to alter this path in a way that doesn't also destroy us, then it's a really big deal that the path we're on is going to end in destruction. Always. It was a very kind of offhanded comment that like, oh yeah, sure, if we continue on this path, we're all going to die, the system will fail, but where we're at right now is fine. It's akin to saying like a person borrowing, money, $1,000 every week on their credit cards or whatever, and being like, well, yeah, obviously if I keep this up, it's going to be a problem, but like right now I can make the payments. And of course, it is true that I've said that nothing just continues on the path that it's on. without forces coming in to mitigate that effect. But unfortunately, in this case, the forces that are going to come in to mitigate that stuff are going to be very painful for the average middle class, however many of them are actually left, but the poor and middle class people in the country and in the West as a whole. And really, like I mentioned many times, the only thing that's propping this up is the dollar's reserve currency status on the global marketplace, and that eventually is going to go away. It might take a few more years, might take 5, maybe even 10 more years. I personally don't think it will, but I've been notoriously slow with my predictions in terms of how long this stuff takes to play out. But like people have always said, all this stuff tends to happen slowly and then all at once. And I'm really kind of getting worried that we're getting into the all at once phase of this, because I don't think that we are in a position domestically and certainly not internationally where we will be able to paper over or recover from it in the way that we did in 2008. And keep in mind that nothing was fixed in 2008. None of the actual drivers behind what makes these problems occur was actually dealt with. They just bailed it out with taxpayer money, and now that's why we're in a position that we are now with the inflation and with even more problems. And so that's what I expect is option number 2, that they will, of course, eventually pivot to an even easier money policy, because that's the only option they have other than being giving up power, not being able to pay police, military, all the non-discretionary part. They even call it non-discretionary. It shows you where their mind's at. So things like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all that is viewed as being a non-discretionary. It means it's viewed as being essential. There's no choice. We have to make these payments. Even defense is not viewed as being as important. The defense budget is not viewed as being as important as some of these other things. So, because basically there is not, you can't decide how much money needs to be spent on Medicare based on a vote in Congress. You can decide how much you're going to spend, I guess, but not how much needs to be spent on it. So we're going to be in for some weird times. The prescription is always the same. Make sure you have some basic preparations to do without outside systems of support, and make sure you keep any extra money that you have, or what I'm doing. I'm not a financial advisor, but it makes sense to keep any money you have outside of the dollar system, bet against the debt, as Gregory Mannarino says, and be your own central bank. Do the things that they are doing, and don't just have your money in the things that are going to be destroyed. Let me know what you guys think, and thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.